You're welcome to another episode on Global Nexus. Today, we are coming away with another interesting topic. We are going to talk about mental health. We want to dive into why talking about mental health in Ghana here, it's very uncomfortable. It's very difficult. And today, I'm not the only person coming away with this. I have here with me Prince.
Yeah.
Hello, Prince.
Thank you. Welcome to the Global Nexus Network. And today, we're going to be talking about mental health. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Prince, have you yourself experienced mental health in any way, as in having to deal with somebody in that situation?
Yeah, I think we all go through something from time to time, you know. I think when we talk about mental health, usually sometimes people think it's an adult issue or an adult conversation, but even kids, you know, experience loss, experience pain, people go through abuse. So, yeah, I think I've personally experienced things mentally, and I've had to go through them. Something that occurs.
Okay. So, personally, what would you say mental health is?
I think mental health is a conversation that deals with your well-being, your cognitive and psychological well-being. You know, how you function in terms of the way you think and the way people also relate to how you are thinking, because you live in a social world. So it's not enough that you have healthy thoughts, or it's not enough that you think, but you also have to deal with people, and then the way you express the way you think is also important. So mental health deals with like your well-being mentally and how you exist and coexist with people in the social world.
Okay. Obviously, I know a lot of people would agree with me that mental health itself is actually a difficult thing to talk about within our society. Before you continue, do you have any idea of how mental health is being described in Akan? Do you have any idea? Like in Akan, how do you call mental health actually?
I don't think that there is enough vocabulary to discuss mental health in our local setting, because
let's settle on Akan.
Yeah, because it's almost simplified to the keyword would be abodam or nitrimu kano and ivisa, right? So I don't think that the conversation has evolved over the years, so it's stuck in probably what was being said hundreds of years ago.
Okay, but don't you think that the fact that there isn't enough vocabulary, just like you said, is what is creating the difficulty? Because you see, it look like when you say mental health in English, it's kind of a euphemism way, as in softening. It's softening the thing for you, and it makes the conversation a little bit. But when it gets to our local, let's say Akan, it becomes something there. I can't easily describe it as what, even though I know maybe you are just having some hard time or difficulty.
Yeah.
But if I would have to straight harshly say, but I want you to move count.
Yeah.
Don't you think the fact that there isn't enough vocabulary to describe it is a serious issue? Don't think it's a serious issue.
Yeah, I mean it's a problem, because when you say mental health, we understand that health is about like, total well-being.
How so well you are.
It's a lot more than just whether you are on the extreme end or you are completely sane. Even mental health, when you talk about that, it makes you understand that there's no such thing as anyone who is 100% healthy.
Okay.
Right? We even understand that on a physical level. That's why people who are very, very buff and strong physically still go to the gym. They still have something to work on. So mental health, because of how broad the name even makes you imagine the conversation, it makes you understand that it's not something to be simplified to he's mad or he's sane. Okay. Right?
So
it's a spectrum.
I wanted to stress on with the vocabulary, because if you would be able to properly address mental health and talk about it comfortably, like it's done elsewhere, because also they are using their local dialect to talk about it, and everybody is able to relate very well with it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that if we will be able to address mental health very well within our local setting, people don't find you extreme, or people don't find it too uncomfortable if we are able to actually talk about it in our local dialect. So I want you to stress on what could be done in terms of vocabulary. Can we still start and develop and make something?
I think that in some ways, right, something has been done about it.
Okay.
Or maybe, if I should put this better, I think that in some way, the people that came before us realized that there are differences between certain types of people who have mental health issues. Okay. So if I'm going to, use the Akan language again as a reference, you hear things like "bodamenitie." If you've ever heard that expression before, right? Right.
So, bodamenitie is not something that we even think, because we in the first place think it's deliberate.
Right.
Do you get it?
Right.
But I'm coming.
It's so vague. It doesn't. It's up to you to interpret what it means, right? So it's like, even though they are accepting that, well, not all kinds of mental illnesses or mental issues are the same. Yeah,
but it look like in our local description, we almost put them in one category.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Do you know any other word aside? I don't know. Come.
I mean, I've heard of a few ones, but they are not so memorable that I will remember them. But I do know of that one because it almost seems as if they are trying to signal that, oh, this person is a lot smarter, right? They are not as chaotic as, if for the lack of a better word, they are not as chaotic as the other people. They are not likely to maybe attack you on the street or chase you.
Yeah.
So there's maybe they are trying to show that there's a disparity here. Oh, he's not like. But it's
more of your person kakra.
Right.
I say, oh, Najum can kakra.
Yes. Right. So there is I think that in that attempt there's an effort to show that there's a distinction. Even though the categorization is still two, mad or a little mad, right? Semi-mad. So it's still bad, and I think that it is true that we should maybe develop a way of speaking about it and giving it better labels, right? Because madness is too.
Okay, so in terms of this vocabulary issue and try to solve it, where do you think we can start from? Because I think I'm having the feel that we are way back late to do this.
Yeah,
we are way back. So where do you think we can start from?
I think proper conversation is what informs the language, right?
But this is the case. Yeah, but this is the case that we don't even have enough vocabulary to actually make people relate with the thing because the
Akan language has always had a limitation with words, right? So I mean, even we can have English words that we will borrow. Sometimes it will be funny when we borrow it into the local language, but at least it's an attempt, right? If I don't want to say it that way, but if you say, by Porao, at least it's funny in the first, when you first say that, it sounds like, because you are changing the L to an R or something, but it's at least an admission that we are trying to tailor our language and, say something else instead of Wabodam, right? So, he's manic depressive becomes something else. Like there should be words that in the beginning will have some reaction,
descriptive words,
right? But at least with time, it kind of echoes through. And then the younger ones, as they're coming up now, when they hear that word, they know, okay, this is what the word is now used to describe.
To describe this particular situation. Okay, so we see aside vocabulary, we just talk about that. I believe a lot of people will reside with us that vocabulary is an issue.
Sure.
I also think stigma is also one of them.
It's a big issue.
So in the issue of stigma and also talking about mental health, whether to a friend, to a stranger, or to a family member, how do you think we can actually deal with stigma?
We are doing this and this podcast and movies and music videos and all that. These are all media. I think that media really evolves the conversation around things. That's why whenever they have a health talk show, people learn things and then slowly they get to change the way they talk about it. It almost seems as if the responsibility is left to, for the lack of a better way of expressing it, the boring type of media. When I say boring type of media, and I'm sorry if you're offended by it, if you find yourself in here, but the news and those lengthy health talk shows. But sometimes some people learn things when they watch movies, when they watch series. We have friends who watch like The Good Doctor, right? Shows like that. So if Ghana had our own way, because I've always said that the way that one of the effects that we don't discuss of the Ghana movie industry having a nosedive is that we have not been able to now bring in modern conversations through media, because it's not every mother or every grandfather who is going to sit down and watch a health talk show for 2 hours. But if it's an engaging movie, it's a documentary, if it's a book or something, then at least some of these medium of communicating, or some of the media has been used or will be used to at least expose people to new conversations. So, the stigma starts with, first of all, meeting the people in the middle.
Okay.
Because
people in the middle.
Yes, because you have to.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, you have to understand what means people are likely to be confronted with a discussion.
Okay.
Like I said, so if you always go, but we talk about it on the news.
Okay.
Yeah, but how many Ghanaians sit down, especially now because of social media and the internet? The decline of TV is something we talk about all the time. So if you are on the news at 7 talking about this,
okay, how
many people's attention are you getting? And then also when it's a movie, now you can even have an actor depict what it looks like.
Okay.
And then you get to see, this is not somebody who is going to be violent towards you.
Okay.
This is somebody who, there's a family member in the movie who is showing us or displaying how they take care of them. Right? This person has schizophrenia, this person has bipolar disorder. Then we are seeing actually how the portrayal of it also informs us how to approach it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it so much when you brought in the idea of a movie and something that could portray the actual state what we are describing.
Yeah.
But I also think that if for anyone who has watched something, being a documentary movie relating to mental health, if there was some that people could properly relate very well, it's seriously going to be the one that is being done not in our local setting.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So this is what we've learned from this so far. Like a movie or documentary which is being done in a different language, perhaps English, most probable, and that make it very relatable.
Yeah.
So do you think that it's about time that even if we are not actually doing some from the scratch ourselves, we actually pick some of these very relatable ones, more of the documentaries, because you can't just pick somebody's movie like that.
Sure.
More of the documentaries, and actually if there could be even a proper transcription or something that would actually bring it to very close to us, because definitely mental health is something that is already in the mainstream.
Yeah.
And if you fail to properly manage it, it's more of once you are producing your labor for something is eating them away.
Sure.
Because you are failing to address it.
Sure.
So what do you think of we actually taking those that are very relatable and then actually bringing it more closer, perhaps in our local dialect, or maybe if not even direct translation, picking some of the words that they use and try to, even some that we could borrow, or some that we could even come up with.
Yeah, I mean it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. The challenge is trying to rewire people's thinking about it, because mental health issues have, if I should clarify, has always been depicted in Ghanaian media, right? But it's always been through a negative lens.
Exactly.
So whenever you see someone with serious mental health issues in a local movie, it's because he has been cursed. It's because they did something evil. At the end of the movie, then he's now with tattered clothes and there are children in the village chasing him around.
Exactly.
You've already poisoned the pool of information. You've already put in the minds of people that it's possible that this is something that is happening to them because of evil they may have done in their past. Right. So once you do that, it's very difficult. So to be honest, it almost seems as if the Ghanaian media, especially on the movie side, I don't want to seem like we are beating down on them, but we have to admit that it's true. So if for now we can't get the ones that exist, the media house that exists, to do the right thing, then perhaps if we could have documentaries already in English, then transcribed to Twi, it could do something. I mean, it's much better than having nothing done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your closing remark on mental health issue in Ghana and how uncomfortable it is dealing with? In a nutshell, what do you think we should look at? Yeah,
overall, it's not something that we should shy away from, because it encompasses so many things. Depression is there. And depression doesn't just start as depression. It's little things, little sadnesses. And almost as if we could even talk about therapy, right? We talk about people should go for therapy, but that really doesn't feel like it is tailored to the average Ghanaian or African's experience, because therapy is expensive, depending on who you're talking to. But I think for the average person, going to sit down, talk about your problems, and then pay a specialist, a therapist, a psychiatrist, psychologist to listen to your problems, to majority of us, it doesn't seem practical. Okay. So what I would say is that if you don't have access to a specialist, if you don't have access to a professional, people need safe spaces. People need friendships. People need groups. And there's a whole other conversation about finding the right people to be vulnerable about, because I believe there's a difference between being open. You can say, bro, I'm not feeling well today, I'm not doing well today. That is maybe being open. But being vulnerable, being able to cry in front of your friends, and it's not every friend you can do this in front of, being able to confide in someone, being able to share your fears, especially with the ones that everybody is likely to encounter, something like depression. Okay, yeah. They're very serious ones. I think in those cases, then a healthcare professional should come in. Okay. But the little things like the depressions and the, having burnout and, you have a mental breakdown or something, I think that if at least the therapy conversation cannot be realistic for most Ghanaians, at least having a social circle that you feel safe around and you can talk to is probably the best thing for starters.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Global Nexus Network, and we've been dealing with why mental health issue. Talking about it in Ghana here is very uncomfortable. A lot of people shy away, even when they are even experiencing it. And then out of this discussion, we're able to figure out that vocabulary is actually causing us more harm than we thought of earlier on, and a whole lot. You can also share your thoughts in the comment section, why you also think it's very uncomfortable, aside vocabulary and also the stigma we mentioned in the video. But perhaps there are also other things that we haven't talked about. You can share with us in the comment section below. This is Global Network, and we thank you so much for watching this episode.